5th grade, and I was just sitting in class. I think I found out because Mom came to pick me up from school. All I really remember is driving home, and she was like, "We were bombed." And I was like, "What does that mean? Like, what happened?" And she said something about some buildings blowing up or something. That's all I really remember about it.
I was woken up by my older brother who said, "You have to turn on the TV." And when we turned on the TV, we just started watching the news, and it was a report that a plane had hit. And while we were watching the video of the first plane, the second plane had actually come in and hit as well. So it was kind of a live feed of the second plane hitting. And it was devastating. Nobody really knew what to do. And the first initial thought for a lot of people, especially for us being where we are in Connecticut, was to actually try to go down to New York City and try to help out and do whatever we could. Bring work gloves down, water bottles, whatever it took. And that was the initial theory for a lot of people. The response is just get down there and help.
I was a paramedic in the EMT in North Bergen, and I had just finished my shift because I was taking my son to the dentist, and right away they called me in, and I had to go and help them. We used to cross the bridge, the Lumpkin Tunnel, and to be able to help people in New York, I seen so many things. Ambulances, people. I mean, the way the structure, just there was nothing there. The way it felt, everything. I've seen it all. I had to work a 32-hour shift that day. I didn't want to stop. I couldn't stop. I lost 2 cousins. I lost most of my partners. We went in the building, and they never came out. I lost a lot of people and friends. I lost a part of my life.
And I just remember thinking, like, being a young kid, not understanding what was happening, thinking it was actually like a movie. Didn't really realize that it was what was going on. I remember a lot of kids in my class being getting dismissed and their parents picking them up. I remember coming home and my mom was home instead of at work, which I thought was different. But never really understood, the magnitude of what was happening.
It was scary. It was freaky because I couldn't leave where I was. I was in charge of all of these students. I didn't know if my children were afraid. I know I was afraid, and then it was just a matter of trying to keep everybody as calm as possible because we didn't know what was happening.
And I figured we'd lose 20 to 30 firemen that day. I never expected to lose 343 firemen that day, 45 of which were personal friends. I'll tell you one emotion that I experienced that day that I'd never experienced in my life prior to that day was fear. I mean, you always think you feel fear until you really know what it is. And that day, there wasn't anybody that wasn't afraid, even the guys that call themselves professionals. We were able to push through that and still do our jobs, but being down there, being removed from the media, not knowing what was going on, and all the rumors that were flying around that day about what was going on across the country. We heard a number of different things about different cities that had been hit. Not only New York and Washington, but Chicago, Florida, we had heard. And I remember distinctly that someone had asked me, "You believed all those rumors?" And I said, "Well, listen, I'm standing in front of 210-story buildings that just fell in front of me. I would believe anything that day." We were maybe a couple football fields away, maybe a football field and a half away from the North Tower when it began to collapse. Going through my mind, we wanted to do some good. We thought we'd find survivors. That's what we wanted to do, the members of the New York City Fire Department.
I remember thinking that a plane was going to come and crash into the school.
So the point I started to fear was when it started to happen and we didn't know if there was an end in sight and if it was going to continue in different states. So I immediately went to the school and I got my other daughter and my son out of class and brought them home just to keep them by me until I had more information about what was going on. I felt safe that way.
I was on the phone with a Canadian customer who told me that a plane had just crashed into the first tower. My first response was, oh, well, that's terrible that somebody crashed into the tower. But then when the second one came, and then the situation in Pennsylvania, we began to see that there was a monster plot going on.
I don't fully know why they did it. I don't think anyone really knows why they did it. They wanted to create some sort of chaos and turbulence in our government, in our day-to-day lives, because they thought that we were bad people. Do I think it could have been prevented? I'm not sure. I really don't know. I think that if bad people want to do bad things, they're going to do it regardless of what we put in place.
Why? Simply put, I just think they hate our way of life. I think that if they could bring us back to the Stone Age, they would. I think that our support of other governments caused it. I don't think it's a problem that's going to go away anytime soon. So, like they say that the fight against terrorism entered its 16th year. They're going to be saying the same thing 50 years from now. It's a problem that I think will never go away.
I think the terrorist attacked the Twin Towers being as they were the tallest buildings and an easy target in New York City. I don't necessarily think that it could have been prevented being as they were just towers.
I believe that the attack was rationalized by the Taliban to draw attention to their plight. I think that they wanted to send a message and obviously create panic within the United States. They chose the Twin Towers because it was an economic symbol of the economic power that the United States has over other people around the world. I do believe that the attacks could have been prevented to some degree. I think that there's always going to be a risk of attacks. If you thwart one, there'll be other attacks. But in the media, they did say that there at one point was information that this attack was about to occur within the weeks or months prior to the actual attack, and it sounded like it was overlooked. So whether or not that's a fact, it was in the media at one point. But if that's the case, then yes, obviously it could have been prevented.
I think they were a symbol of all that is good in America, always trying to strive for new heights.
I don't think it could have been prevented because I feel like if there's evil forces that set like plans in motion, you don't really know that it's happening, so it's going to happen regardless. Why? I think it just could have been that they were upset. Like the U.S. was on top for a while, so I think they were kind of trying to bring people down and kind of knock us off our high horse at that point.
After World War I, the British drew at their own discretion borders. The West, especially the United States, is the great Satan. So to have an opportunity to strike a blow against the great Satan is a positive thing for them. We all say, well, love is the answer, and we should all love one another. But love kind of sometimes makes your brain not work properly. But hate, I have a plan. I can do damage. I can get revenge. I can throw terror into your heart. So that's what we do. Could have been prevented until the human race becomes a humane race. We're always going to find some reason to not like the other, and we are the other to them.
Iraq, it's a very political hot potato. I do believe that they did sponsor terrorism. I do believe that they did support terrorism. I do believe that if they had the ability to supply terrorists with weapons, be it weapons of mass destruction of the nuclear capability or even chemical capability they would have. So I'm not necessarily against either war.
Quite honestly, I am not for war, but at the same time, I realize that sometimes you have to fight for what is right. So I don't know if it solved anything.
I think it was the right decision to go to war with Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11 because they attacked us. So we can't just sit there and wait for them to do anything else. We had to take action in our own hands.
It's understandable why you would go to war with Afghanistan, because you're looking for that, revenge, I guess.
I do believe that a response was necessary. Whether or not the war that ensued was done the right way, honestly, it's not really for me to say. I'm not the expert. I will say that the people that were fighting over there, there's a lot of support for those folks, and I am a firm believer that even though that war has wound down, we still need to support the troops that are coming back as a result.
I didn't think we should have went to war, and the only reason I think that is because that's what they wanted. I think they wanted us to show that we're too aggressive, that this is how we respond, that we have no tolerance, but we preach tolerance.
For my 8th grade self, it felt like the right decision at the time. If someone hits you, you want to hit them back. It's just that immediate retaliation that is satisfying, and I think that a lot of American citizens agreed that it was the right decision at the time.
No, I would definitely not, because the association that was made after 9/11, I think, was really exaggerated, with people blaming the Muslim community. So I think attacking those two countries wasn't the right decision, and the fact that they did was really because of the oil, I think, that was there. So the only thing the U.S. did was make more of a trouble for that area.
In terms of Afghanistan, I think it was the right decision because we knew that country was harboring these specific terrorists, and you have to send a message to every single country in the world which says, if you harbor individuals who are willing to kill 5,000 American citizens, then we are forced by necessity to come exert whatever means would be necessary to destroy you. Because when you think about the war in Iraq, that's a mistake because there was no real evidence they had weapons of mass destruction. There was no real reason to try to overthrow that regime. I think it was a mistake because we expended so much treasure and energy there that we couldn't offer the full commitment required to Afghanistan itself.
Hard to say. Probably not, just for selfish reasons. I wouldn't want them taking away my cell phone or recording my conversations or things like that. So even though it might be for safety reasons, I think it could eventually end up in the wrong hands and used for different and wrong reasons. So I would not want that to happen.
If that will prevent people from dying, yes, do it. The underside of that is these are what America has been built on, these freedoms that we have. That's how we differ from many other countries.
To give up some of our civil liberties in the sake of keeping people safe isn't a big price to pay for safety. There are some that shouldn't be ever taken away from us. Our freedom of speech, I think we should be able to say what we want, when we want, and how we want to say it. I mean, that's what the country's based on. As far as searches of your personal stuff, it's happening right now. I mean, you go to an airport, they're searching your bags without a warrant. They're doing body inspections without a warrant, so it's already happening.
But I suppose, if it came to a point in time where the entire Western world was on the brink of collapse, then you have to consider those possibilities because survival itself is obviously a precondition of all of your other beliefs existing in the world. You can say, I believe in freedom, I believe in peace, I believe in love, I believe in gay rights, but if you don't actually govern your country, if you're not alive to exist as a being of love, then your beliefs died with you and they no longer exist?
It's kind of hard to say. I'm not for them taking our liberties away. But at the same time, I'm a mom, I'm a teacher. My whole life has been trying to keep people safe. Sometimes you realize you don't have control over everything.
I don't think that government should take civil liberties such as freedom of speech in searching personal property without a warrant, because then they're targeting people that don't necessarily need to be targeted and making people feel as if they could be doing things bad when they're not doing anything bad.
Safety is an illusion. So to give up the things that make us who we are, that cause people to want to come to this country, it's politically fun, I'm sure, to beat your chest and it's America first and we're going to protect you from everything, and anybody with half a brain knows that isn't possible.
My personal beliefs is that I believe that freedom of speech should never be taken away from us. However, if someone wants to look in my emails and check things out to make sure that I'm not a terrorist, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Personal belongings. I'm okay with somebody checking out my personal belongings to make sure that I don't have anything that could be harmful to other people. I feel that that's a safety measure that should be taken when in certain circumstances. Random people on the street, possibly not, but if somebody has suspicion that that you could do harm to other people or yourself, then maybe it's worth a look.
If you want your government to provide you with a level of safety that makes you comfortable, you have to be willing to, give up some of those liberties. I think the thing that would concern me the most is, if certain my private information, how much that's being shared. I think it's understandable to say, if I want my government, if I want to be protected, there's some things I have to give up for that.
No. I think it can be used for anything, not just terrorism suspects. Once that box is open, you can't close it. Someone's just walking down the street minding their own business, and it's like, hey, I don't like the way you look, I don't know what you're carrying in your bag, I want to know. And then all of a sudden your stuff's going through and you didn't do anything wrong. Could definitely be abused when it comes to personal property.